Salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? Today's first encounter. This still bothers me to this day. I was in high school at the time. It was around 1 a.m. on a Saturday night. My best buddy and I were just hanging out playing some League at the crib when we got a call that our friend got drunk at a party and needed to get picked up. Whatever, we're sober as penguins, and he's gotten us before, so we set out to grab him. We pick him up and throw him in the back seat and begin our journey home. We live kind of out in the country, eastern North Carolina, so it's a bit foggy and no other cars are on the road. When all of a sudden, as we come around this turn, we see this animal thing. A ball of reddish-brown fur was hunched over in the ditch on the side of the road. I thought it was maybe an injured bear or a big-ass wolf, so I slowed down to a crawl and blast the high beams at it. This thing proceeds to turn its head and look right at us. Beady red eyes, pointed ears, and a snout like a wolf. I can't look away from this thing as our drunken friend is rolling around in the back completely unaware. This thing then stands up on 2 legs and turns and faces us. It looks like a werewolf/vampire mix, fangs poking out of its mouth, long pointed ears, covered in long reddish-brown fur. That's thinner on its chest and midsection. It's taller than the street sign next to it, and it's still in the ditch, easily 8 to 9 feet tall. It's lanky as hell, but can still see muscle definition on this thing. And it's just staring at us. I glance over at my buddy in the passenger seat. He's by now sunken way down in his seat, saying, "Drive, drive, dude, drive, just drive. Jake, please, drive." I turn my head back to decide if I'm going to have to run this thing over or not. This thing gets down on all fours and bounds across the field next to it at breakneck speeds. And I just sit there stunned. I snap out of it, drive home, questioning if I go on to be one of those crazy Bigfoot people and spend the rest of my life hunting things down. Nobody ever believes me when I tell them this experience, but I can still call my buddy up and ask him, "What the fuck did we see that night, dude?" And he immediately knows what I'm talking about. So, yeah. And now I spend 90% of my time in the forests and outdoors for my job, always knowing that shit like this really does exist and is out here. Today's second encounter. This experience was told to me by an Australian buddy of mine. He's a miner. We'll call him Jack. I've known Jack for about 10 years now. He doesn't exaggerate, and he is an expert miner. A few years ago, it occurred to me to ask Jack if he's ever seen any reptilians, so I explained to him what they were. He told me the following experience, which I am quite sure is true. He was visiting a big old copper mine in southwest of Bathurst, North South Wales, Australia. The mine was just over 100 years old, with lots of shafts leading off from it. Jack has similar qualities to Crocodile Dundee and does things that other people would not consider doing. He wanted to see the mine, to see if it was still worth mining. Even though he didn't have a flashlight with him, he lowered himself on a rope and went east along the mine shaft for about 200 yards. He felt along the wall and was getting used to the lack of light. There was a little coming down. Suddenly, 8 feet to the right, he saw a pair of big, greenish, gray eyes, about 6 inches apart. They were round. He didn't notice what kind of pupils they had. The eyes blinked. Jack watched for about a minute, decided what was best to be done, and slowly backed out of the mine. Today's third part of the upload. A woman in her 40s in Australia had continual lower back pain. Also, she hardly ever slept. She just dozed a lot. She was one of my most blocked clients I had ever had. I could hardly muscle test her at all, no matter what I did. Muscle testing indicated that her problems were related to an alien abduction and started in a particular year. When I told the woman about this, she then informed me that it was the same year when her daughter started what the woman thought was sleepwalking. The woman found her daughter, who was only a few years old, outside the house at around 2 in the morning when it was freezing cold outside. The trouble was, the daughter was too short to reach the handle. There were other incidences when the child would turn up on high hedges. It's bad enough when aliens abduct children. At least they could return them back to their beds. Today's fourth encounter. This was not a visual, just I heard some weird, unusual howls in the woods behind my property, October, shortly after midnight. It was a full moon, just like your classic horror movie script. I live in the town of New Portland, Maine. I've lived in Maine woods all of my life. I'm very familiar with the local wildlife. It certainly was not a coyote, as I hear them most every night. Not Bigfoot-like sounds either, as I've looked them up on the internet. 2 short howls about 20 seconds apart from each other, canine in nature but deeper and louder, huge lungs. Hard to determine the proximity. Could have been as far away as a half a mile from my property, but it sounded nearby nonetheless. And I had a strong gut reaction to better go inside. While I have never felt threatened by any wildlife sounds before. Also, my friend shared his encounter with me back in August of 2016, early evening. He got chased out of a farm in Lexington, Maine, which is not too far from where I am. He's an avid hunter, and he described it as something way bigger than a bear or a moose. He was alerted by the 2 Rotties in the back of his truck going full panic mode when he saw something huge standing on 2 legs behind a tree 20 feet away in his rearview mirror. It then leapt on all 4s toward his truck. He started the truck and bolted out of there, seeing the thing chase him in the mirror for a short while. I didn't know about Dogman back then when he told me his encounter. Just started researching after I heard those unusual howls I heard a couple days ago. My experience was not visual, but hearing unusual howls, unusual enough to start searching the internet, honestly. I've never heard anything like it. What I heard was a howl, being shorter in duration but deeper and louder. Exactly, this aspect suggests it was bigger than a coyote, wolf, or dog. That and the gut feeling, being very, very uncomfortable and feeling I needed to go inside as quick as possible. Like I said, I hear coyotes almost every night around here. That howl was one time only. I have not heard it since, and I am glad that I have not. Also, the sighting in Lexington was by my friend. He told me once just after it happened, but still can't come to terms with what he saw and would rather not talk about it. Today's fourth encounter. I'd like to share with you our experience we had with a strange creature when we were visiting the Shetland Islands the summer of 1985. The weird happenings took place where we were fishing, and the fish we'd caught disappeared, only for us to discover a lizard-like man had been taking them. Having visited Shetland previously for the holiday, we decided it was time to explore Western Shetland, especially St. Ninian's Island in the south. This is an amazing place where the island is joined to Shetland with a large bank of sand stretching across the water. This forms two beaches on either side and is known as a tombolo, tying St. Ninian Isle to the mainland of Shetland, hence why St. Ninian is called the Tied Island. It's a beautiful and very mystical place, even in the wet and windy weather. However, we had nice sunny weather for the week we visited. Asking a local farmer if it was okay for us to camp on the island, and he and his wife recommended and helped us find the best places. We camped away from the designated path that people walk on, and in the sheltered grass area, my young daughter and I pitched a tent, while my wife sorted a toilet tent. Our entrance of the tent looked out over the sand and the water. On the other side, you would be looking at the mainland. The first day was very nice weather, and you could see the water being aqua green as the waves rolled in on both sides of the sandy tombolo. This green would get deeper, and eventually you could see the water becoming a beautiful, cool royal blue, looking further out to the sea. The surface of the water would glitter with the sun reflecting off the entire ocean. The ripples and the waves looked like seahorses waving their pure white tails, and above the white puffy clouds would roll on by with a very clear blue sky. One of the things so nice about the area of Scotland is how clean, pure, and unpolluted everything is, where man has not left the curse on Mother Nature. The three of us decided to go swimming, and we were surprised at how warm it was. Oh yeah, it was cool, but being Scottish, we are hardy. But it didn't really grip you that much. We also lied on the sand for a good hour after the swim as the warmth of the beach and the sun got us dried and warmed up. It was beautiful looking up at the sky and admiring how clean and serene everything was. Early in the evening, I decided to take my daughter fishing on the rocks. We had planned to camp here for a week, and the farmer agreed to this as long as we took our chemical toilet to the nearby septic tank for disposal. The two of us spent about an hour fishing on the rocks at high tide, so there was not too much weed for our tackle to get stuck in. It was a good catch where my daughter got 3 large pollock, but I was less than fortunate with catching only 1 small collie. Our intention was to see if we could live off the rocks with fishing for our meals in the evening. We had brought other foods such as frying bacon and cereals for breakfast, along with cooking burgers, sausages, using a barbecue in the evenings. However, we thought it'd be neat to live off of nature with catching fish for eating our meals. We took our proud catch back to the tent, but my wife had already prepared something for us, being fried up that evening, so we decided to keep the fish till tomorrow morning for breakfast. We put them in a bucket that was sealed. During the night, with moderate to strong wind, you could hear the tent flapping a lot, but this really never bothered us. However, since I was a light sleeper, I would come in and out of consciousness. Later on, it seemed to get windier, and I thought I could hear something growling behind the flapping of the tent and the whistle of the wind around us. I was certain that I could hear something go crunch or something split, but this felt as if it was off in the distance. But again, because of the noise of the wind, I thought it was just my imagination. I also got this uncanny and eerie feeling as if something was walking or stomping around the tent. In fact, I felt as if we were all being watched. I had a nervous feeling deep within my solar plex area, as if an inner voice was saying something is very wrong and shouting, "Danger, danger." When we got up the next morning, I went to get the fish only to find the bucket had been crushed open and the fish were gone. So I was right, something creepy had been around the tent as my daughter and wife slept. It was not my imagination after all, with what I heard underneath the noise of the wind. What happened? What kind of animal did this? We just found it weird and a total mystery. Little did I know, but we would soon realize this was our experience with a strange reptilian or lizard man. Of course, we didn't even remotely consider that at the time. It could not have been a deer or sheep, and no seal could do that or be able to make its way up to where the tent was from the sea. We thought it must have been a person, perhaps kids, pulling a prank. But there was no one else camping at the time. Also, it was quite dark with a drizzle and heavy clouds during the night. It would have been very different if it was a good bright night, since in the north of Scotland it does not really get dark, so one could see without shining a light. It's short nights in the summer, but long dark nights during the winter. On this night, however, it was dark, wet, and windy. Also, no one really knew we were here, apart from the local farmer, and the fish were contained and not openly displayed. It remained a mystery, and we decided to not fish for the next couple of days, as it was too wet to go on the rocks, and it was a little windy. On the third day, we awoke to a bright sunny day and decided just to hang around outside the tent, where we relaxed on the grass. As the day got hotter, we went for a swim and relaxed on the beach. There was no one else around, so we had the whole beach to ourselves. This is something that we really love about remote areas in Scotland. If someone else is on the beach, we consider it to be crowded. My daughter decided to go for a walk on the other side of the beach and explore some of the rock pools and check out for crabs as the tide was going out. My wife and I were lying on the beach facing the sky with our eyes closed and basking in the sun, with an occasional seagull calling above or in the distance. Suddenly we were shaken by a loud scream. We knew right away that it was our daughter's voice and looked up to see where she was standing. About halfway across the beach, she was standing staring into the sea as if she had turned to stone. I looked into the sea's horizon to observe what she was looking at. I saw a green humanoid creature standing up in the water. It had yellow eyes with large, thin black pupils in its eyes, according to my daughter. It was staring at her and growling, showing its teeth, which looked like large, thin fangs. These were all close and tightly together. However, some of the teeth were positioned at an irregular angle. It had a web-patterned skin with scales and long, lanky arms. The hands looked like webbed hands with long, pointed claws. It was a lizard or reptilian in nature, and its chest was very muscular. The being then dived down into the water, and after a splash it was gone. I had to blink a few times in disbelief of what I had just seen. Then my daughter came running up. "Daddy, Daddy, did you see the lizard man?" She was deeply traumatized by what she had just seen, visibly shaken, and explained that when she first saw the creature, it was eating a fish. How do you comprehend something like that? It's so odd and crazy. You try to rationalize it as something else, or perhaps a trick of the light. You keep going over it again and again. If you mention it to people, including the police, they won't take you seriously. They'll say you must have been drunk or on drugs. Then there's the people that say it's a hoax. What would be the benefit? There's no one else around. Well, I can tell you my daughter's never been on any drugs and is definitely too young to drink at the time, and was not part of any hoax. I guess talking about it openly without any judgment from anyone is the best way, but it is difficult to find people open-minded enough to discuss it with. Writing your experience down on paper is very therapeutic, as it really helps to process the encounter and come to terms with it emotionally and mentally. Maybe there is a scientific explanation for it, but I think the only rational explanation is there are creatures living on this planet that scientists are not aware of and don't have enough information to validate the phenomenon. The large lizard man, or reptile entity, had the first half of our fish in its mouth and tore it in half with its teeth. It was at this point that my daughter screamed and stood in horror before it dived under the water. She said the fish was large and fighting in its reptilian hands as it put it in its mouth and bit it in half, with the blood coming out of the fish. Well, now you know who took the fish, right? The lizard man. I reckon it was 9 feet tall, judging where it was standing in the water, and too far for us to swim. Considering a reptilian humanoid or lizard was standing where the water only came up to its waist, it must have been very tall. I don't think we would have stood a chance if it wanted to attack us. Perhaps it would only attack if threatened or invading its territory. My wife also saw it, and at the time was very quiet and just hugged our daughter, focusing on protecting her and making sure she was all right. After the encounter, we decided to immediately leave. The holiday ends right now. My daughter certainly didn't want to stay around. We packed everything up and made sure we took all our waste and left right away without even thanking the farmer for his hospitality. In the car, we traveled to Lerwick in Shetland, which is the main town on the island. We found a hotel that was able to offer us accommodation for the rest of the week. I reckon that it would be the best to be in a populated area with plenty of people and stay away from any isolated or remote areas. It made my daughter feel safer and more secure, but still troubled us of what had happened. At the end of the week, as scheduled, we flew back home and never visited Shetland again. Today's final encounter. I have doubts of what I could have seen. Thought it was a bear at first glance, but aggressive behaviors and footprints don't lie. All the evidence I found point to Dogman. So the first night this all started was a few months ago. I was woken up one morning by something tapping on the window of my bedroom. It sounded like a fingernail on a glass, light tapping, but enough to wake me up. I woke up, made some coffee, grabbed a glass of water, and went outside. Sat down and had a cigarette, and heard some strange noises. Weird, like clicking sound, not cicadas or grasshoppers. I'm used to those. Then, about 5 minutes later, a growling sound, very deep but short. It was around 3 in the morning. Coffee was done about 20 minutes later, so I grabbed a cup and went back outside on my porch. I took my first sip and I heard this blood-curdling scream about 150 feet behind my porch, maybe the next block over. I finished my coffee and I'm walking inside. Just as I open the glass slider, something attacks my porch door, beats the hell out of it for almost 5 minutes straight. Scared the hell out of me. I rushed inside, got another cup of coffee, and waited about 20 minutes, looking out the kitchen window to see if anything was there. Being that my backyard is completely dark, I'm not sure what I expected, but I gave up waiting and went back outside. I sit down, I'm drinking my coffee, and I hear what sounds like my neighbor's new aluminum fence getting the crap beat out of it. I'm looking on my side, nothing. My guess is it went to the other side of his property, beat the hell out of his panels. It stopped quickly, and that was it. No noise for the rest of the morning. Fast forward 2 months, Thanksgiving 2020. I woke up again, 3 in the morning. The same nails on the window. My dogs have barked either time. So I'm suspicious. Make my way outside, coffee ready, iPhone up in case there is something there, and nothing. I'm talking on the phone with my trucker buddy about what happened before Thanksgiving, and he doesn't have a clue. Mind you, we all grew up in these woods. Well, before the internet was invented, so we naturally played in these woods. About 2 hours go by and the sun is up enough that I can kind of make out a shape in the woods behind my house. It's about 5.5 feet, just standing in this position for a good 45 minutes. I managed to take a picture, but it's shitty quality. The rest of the day and that night will live with me forever. Not 2 hours later, I heard this tree branch snap off and something crashed to the ground, something heavy. No mistaking that sound for a tree falling over. Turns out, a tree on the edge of the neighbor's property, about 25 feet up, a large branch, about 5 inches in diameter, is just twisted off and snapped like a twig. It's still hanging there. It doesn't even touch the ground, but it's about 12 feet long. I did have a look in the woods for a bit to see if I could find anything. It's mostly one obvious human trail that is used often, 2 to 3 small animal trails, and a really creepy makeshift trail with broken trees littering the outsides of the trail. Quite a bit of big stuff to climb over, logs piled like I've seen and heard about, odd like teepee shapes, and several grass beds throughout the woods. One was recent, the others didn't look too comfortable, so I got done with exploring and went inside for a drink, go out in my garage where I can work on stuff I've been doing for a while. We recently moved to this house, so stuff isn't really quite unpacked yet. As I'm going through boxes and stuff, I hear this loud ruckus coming from the small quarter-acre plot across the street from us. Something big is moving in the palmetto bushes, and there is a large dead tree knocked down before, but something cracked it open and was eating the grubs. I assume the sound quickly went away. I heard whatever it was run north toward the canal, which is super close, maybe 90 feet from my driveway. Fast forward, 10 p.m. I'm still in the garage, but the door's closed this time. I accidentally bang on the garage door and I heard something on the other side bang back. Me thinking it's my kids, being the teenagers they are, I bang again. I heard this really loud growl. I ran out of my garage and through the house to the outside. The trash cans were open and my Thanksgiving turkey carcass, which was in a box, had been taken. But the rancid smell stayed. I followed the smell to my backyard and called a buddy who's seen stuff in the woods, and he tells me to be calm and move slowly. I turn off the porch light and I'm sitting out there smoking a cigarette. I hear my bushes on the corner of the house being brushed loudly. I turn around and I hear something large trample the grass down the side of my yard. The neighbor's dog's going crazy barking at it, so I'm not stupid enough to chase it into the street where it's gonna go. I stayed on my porch and waited. This big 6-footish black thing runs by from the other side of my house and runs behind the neighbor's house. His security lights kicked on, and it ducked behind their above-ground pool. It's crouched over, and I can see it. Twice the width of me, easily 400 to 500 pounds. The following day, I found paw prints in an abandoned anthill in my yard that I examined weeks prior. The morning dew ruined the footprint the next morning. Now you may ask, what makes me think this was a Dogman? We have a marsh close by that's about 20 by 20 square miles in size, with no trails or roads in or out. There's a waterway within 100 feet of my house that is 12 to 15 feet deep. I grow a lot of my own vegetables and fruits, and some have come up missing. As far as the woods behind my house go, there are several trails. Some are obviously human, as they were used frequently by the neighbors. However, there are small animal trails which are obvious, and then there are the trails that don't make any sense. They zigzag through bramble vine areas. They are hard to navigate. The trees surrounding the trails are all mostly broken off and leaning like a Bigfoot would do. I haven't found any structures yet or any markers, no bones. I received a gift, a pile of leaves on my doorstep one morning. The leaves are from the plants in my backyard, and have no possible way of magically appearing. And with that, that's why I think there is a Dogman in Lehigh Acres, Florida. Thank you. There you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed the early morning, middle of the night bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go. And honestly, what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences judgment-free. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on your children, your pets, your family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.